Good morning and welcome to our annual State of the City Address. My name is Tim Sink and President of the Greater Concord Chamber of Commerce, and we're delighted to see such a terrific turnout this morning for what has always been a very, very popular event. My first order of business, I really want to thank Charter Trust, who has been a sponsor of this event in the past. We couldn't do events like this without the generous sponsorship of the business community. Rich Woodfin is here with us, and I just want to ask you to join me in thanking Charter Trust for their generous sponsorship. So we have two folks to recognize this morning, and we're very delighted to do this. We've been honored to recognize the Concord Firefighter of the Year and also the Concord Police Officer of the Year. So we're going to do that now. We've got representatives from both departments here to accept these awards. It is my honor to honor Scott Burke, who is the lead dispatcher for City of Concord firefighters. Fire dispatcher Scott Burke was appointed to the Concord Fire Department on February 19th in 2001. Throughout his career, lead dispatcher Burke has developed a reputation as a trustworthy dispatcher who makes the Concord Fire Department better every day. He is an outstanding communicator and dispatcher. He brings great energy, knowledge, and skill to his work, and he has often been complimented for his thoroughness. He is very well respected by the members of the Concord Fire Department, as well as the members of all of the capital area departments. His focus on his work goes far beyond providing the minimum level of information for responding crews. He researches buildings and address history and any other pertinent information which might affect the safety of responders or the conduct of efficient emergency operations. He represents the department well to our citizens when they are calling for help and works to make the experience less upsetting. He is constantly finding ways to contribute to the department, and he has mastered the equipment and technology of the communication center. As lead dispatcher, he has the role of trainer for new dispatchers, and he excels in assuring that they have a very robust and productive learning experience. He is a great example of knowledge and professional attitude and the department's core values. Lead dispatcher Scott Burke is indeed a credit to the Concord Fire Department and the City of Concord. Dispatcher Burke could not be here with us this morning. When you're a professional firefighter, sometimes your schedule is unpredictable. That was a joke. I've got to remember not to do that in the future. Accepting on behalf of Scott Burke are Fire Chief Andrews and President of the Professional Firefighters, Jim Duckworth.
Sure.
Yes, it's always yes.
Thank you on behalf of Scott, and very much appreciates it. Have a good day.
It is now my pleasure to recognize the Concord Police Officer of the Year, Officer Benjamin Mitchell. Officer Mitchell has been employed by the Concord Police Department since May of 2012, where he has been assigned primarily to the Patrol Division. He currently holds several specialties, which include Field Training Officer, Bicycle Officer, Police Mountain Bike Instructor, and Drug Recognition Expert. During the past year, Officer Mitchell has assisted in training several new police officers and is recognized as a well-rounded, highly motivated police officer who is a great example and role model to the officers he mentors. He was recently certified as an International Police Mountain Bike Association instructor, and the training that he has provided to his fellow officers has been valuable and well received. In June of 2017, he organized and participated in the Bike Rodeo at Steeplegate Mall, promoting bicycle safety to area youth and their families. Officer Mitchell contributed to the department's goal of combating the use of illegal drugs, volunteering to participate in the various Granite Hammer drug operations coordinated by the Drug Enforcement Unit and the Central New Hampshire Special Operations Unit. Throughout the past year, he has made numerous contributions to the furtherance of police services within the Concord community, and the following are just a few examples. A traffic stop that led to the identification of arrest of two suspected drug dealers at a motel outside of Concord. a letter of commendation for his efforts on a call in December of 2017 responding to a South End neighborhood for a reported knife fight in progress, leading to the arrest of potentially dangerous individuals. A commendation bar for meritorious service for his actions in May 2017 when he and a fellow officer performed life-saving measures to a stabbing victim en route to the hospital. Assisting with the hiring process by participating on panels to interview prospective police officer candidates. In 2016, Officer Mitchell was recognized with a commendation bar for life-saving for his efforts in saving a 21-year-old male who became unconscious and stopped breathing after using heroin. In 2017, he was recognized with a letter of commendation for diligent work in locating and apprehending an individual who had been suspected of committing arson at the old New Hampshire DOT building. These are just a few of the examples for why the Greater Concord Chamber of Commerce is honored to present Officer Benjamin Mitchell with the award of Police Officer of the Year on behalf of the members of the Concord Police Department and the citizens of Concord. Please join me in congratulating and welcoming Officer Mitchell.
All right, I'll keep this brief. I just wanted to say I'm honored to receive this award. I'd like to say thank you to Tim at this Chamber of Commerce. I'd also like to say thank you to the mayor, the city manager, the chief of police, and the citizens of Concord for allowing me to be here today. Thank you.
Somebody mentioned earlier that this has got to be the safest place to be in Concord this morning. So we're honored to have the mayor and the city manager come back and give us our State of the City address. And I will do the introductions at this point. We're going to be quick. Mayor Bouley has been a member of the City Council and in the City of Concord since 1998. He was elected mayor in 2007, and he was and Mayor Bouley is a partner with the firm of Dennehy and Bouley in Concord, a government consulting firm. City Manager Tom Aspell. Whose show is this anyways? City Manager Tom Aspell is with us as well.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another great day in the city, right? So, it is great to be back. And hopefully we will keep you thoroughly entertained. I was entertained this morning just seeing the old picture of myself up there where I still had hair. So maybe we should probably update that in the future because I haven't seen that much hair on top of my head in a long time. So, first, I just want to say congratulations to both our police officer and firefighter of the year. And I want to take just a moment to recognize all of the members of the police and fire departments here in the city. I've talked about them in the past. They truly do keep us all safe, and I think we have some of the highest quality individuals throughout the state. But just to give you an idea, for those of you who think we live in a sleepy little community, our fire department over the last year responded to over 8,400 emergency responses, and they transported over 4,700 patients. Just to give you an idea. So, calls for service, for instance, overdose, we talk a lot about opioids and such, overdose responses, just to give you a flavor of how things have grown and changed. In 2011, we had 35 responses for overdose. In 2017, last year, we had 253. Narcan administrations in 2011, we had 46, and last year we had 148. So they're a busy department. And for anybody who's been up to the emergency room at the hospital, it is very commonplace to see 3 ambulances up there at any given time. And the old days where they used to take and go back to the station and then go out to a call, well, those days are long gone. They go from the hospital to call, back to the hospital to the call. So we are a very busy department. Our police, I am staggered by this number, but I've seen the statistics, it's all true. Total numbers of calls for service are over 49,000 in the city alone. So we are very busy and we have a great professional department. What I was hoping to accomplish this morning, and I want to make sure we get through this quickly so we can take questions and such. I wanted to show you one that we actually listen at the city. And more often than not, I find this day and age, people think, why would I go participate? Why do I go to the city? And they don't care, they don't listen. We do listen. And in December of 2015, the Chamber gave us their Economic Strategies Task Force report. And I am proud to say that if you go down this list, you will find that we have accomplished all of these tasks. We have funded a position for economic development, and we filled that with Susie Pegg. Where are you, Susie? There you go. She's back there. So she's not shy. If you've seen her dance, you definitely know she's not shy. We put together our work plan, and we've established that, and we've funded that by the city council has also funded that in their budget. We were actually also proud to fund, give 50% of the shares of the city share for the incubator study, which I am anxiously waiting to see the outcome of that study. But that was a great partnership with the Chamber and other folks in this room. So, economic development. We talked a little bit about last year. We're going to talk a lot more this year and talk a little bit about, we make these investments and what are the outcomes from them. So we've talked about the economic development piece. We talked about hiring Susie, which was a wonderful hire. And we said, okay, we're starting from zero. Where do we need to go? And the first thing we really needed to do, in my opinion, was to show we're alive, we're here, we're open for business. And so we set up an independent business website for business attraction, which was launched 2 months ago. It incorporates a new branding approach to the city of Concord. And if you can look up in the top corner, in the word Concord, you'll see there's a wheel in the upper left corner. The wheel, it must be good because I did not come up with this. It symbolizes progress, action, but I think it also reaches back to our tradition of heritage on transportation. So I think it made a lot of sense. Next slide. We know that we have a great quality of life and a fantastic sense of place, but we needed everyone to be part of it. And that message of what Concord means to you and to your family. So, as you know, we've talked a little bit about a business strike force, and that is made up of private sector and government leaders who the economic development director who can convene as needed, and who can put together a team to determine where the demands are and where the needs are when we are out there pursuing a potential client. The economic development director is assembling that team or those teams, and I believe has spoken to many of you in this room already. In fact, this is the naughty and nice list. Many of you in this room are on that list, and some of you have already actually even agreed to participate and to be part of that initiative. So I want to just say a huge thank you to doing that. I know this time out of your day, but I think it's going to make a tremendous impact upon our community. We talked a lot about Main Street, and in the past we just did a lot of high fives and how great it looked and how wonderful it created a sense of community. But now the question becomes, did it actually accomplish, and is it accomplishing the desired effect that we were looking for? So the first thing I really want to say thank you to with the Chamber is with the New Hampshire CDFA tax credit application, which many of you participated in, and I think we owe a tremendous thank you to, because without your participation, that project would not have happened. So, but with the application, there were a lot of goals that we needed to set out. For instance, we talked about the Main Street storefront vacancies, and we've been able to reduce the vacancies thus far from 10% to 6%. We had a goal in that application of adding at least 2 new restaurants, and I'm pleased to announce we've had 5 new restaurants have been added: Whiskey and Wine, Noodles and Pearls, Revival, the Off-Main Pizzeria, Chuck's Barbershop, and Dos Amigos expanded as well. And on Main Street, our property value at the time we began was about $153.2 million, and the goal was increased by 7% in 5 years. And I am very happy, and that 5% represents about $10.7 million or $260,000 in new property taxes. As of last year, first year into it, we saw a $5.6 million net increase in value. That is tremendous. And we've also added approximately 56 new full-time equivalent jobs in the downtown. This is just me bragging. But we have been recognized by a whole host of organizations across the state for our efforts on Main Street, whether it be the disability community, engineers, planners, Preservation Society, etc. I think it's a great cross-section and a huge tribute to you and this community for believing in making that happen. One of the key components to this downtown project was about market rate housing. And this, because Tom and I couldn't be too original, this is actually a slide from last year. And you'll note that the last line of that slide says, "More to come soon." So I want to talk a little bit about that. Each of the developers, I'm going to talk about 3 different projects. They all cited that it was the effort of Main Street and that we went forth that brought them here to the city. So it was for instance, the Capitol Commons garage, the acquisition of the New Hampshire Employment Security property, and the underground utilities all were examples of why they wanted to invest here. Market rate housing, at the start of Main Street project, we had 35 market rate units and 394 low-income units. And the goal was to add 10 market rate units, or about 28% increase. In 2017, 30 new market rate units have been built and 31 are in progress. And next 24 to 36 months, we expect to have an additional 154 to 174 more market rate units added. So the first project I just want to kind of highlight is from the Elm Grove companies. Respected developer for full service real estate company based in Manchester. They acquired 4 properties in Concord on South State and Pleasant last year, and it was about 45,000 square feet combined. The price was $2.34 million. They're rehabbing all 4 buildings and they're converting office space at 15 Pleasant Street, and as well as the White Mountain Coffee Building, into 12 new micro apartments with lofts. And if anybody been down there, you can see that a lot of work is going on. They're converting office space at 5 and 7 State Street into new 18 apartments, and the building will have approximately 28 units when they're fully renovated. That's about adding to additional 18,000 square feet of commercial space. The city also supported that effort with 79E, and that will last for about 6 years. So hopefully the project will be completed this summer. Now, I happened to be testifying before the state senate probably about a month or so ago, and there was a gentleman by the name of Senator Guida, nice gentleman from Plymouth, Rumney area or so. That's where he represents. And he made a comment to me. He said, "I have never met a city or local official who will ever reduce a fee, reduce a tax. You're just basically a bunch of greedy, blah, blah, blah." You get the idea. So I was able to inform him, which I thoroughly enjoyed, that I didn't know how they did it up in Plymouth, but let me tell you how we do it here in the city. This past year, we have eliminated the transportation impact fees on commercial development. We've eliminated the school impact fees citywide. We've exempted the downtown residential projects from the costly planning board review, and there is if there's no significant exterior work. We've eliminated the non-critical licensing requirements. So it was a fun moment for me. I enjoyed, that's for sure. Next project is Dolben. It's a consortium of developers invested, led by the Dolben companies of Woburn, Mass. They are a 4th generation privately held company, and they own and manage over 15,000 apartments, as well as commercial space across the United States. Specifically, they testified before the council and specifically said they were attracted to the city due to the Complete Street project and Main Street, as well as the underground utility relocation. So the current concept is upwards of about 160,000 square feet, or 110 to 125 new apartments, which are studios or 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms. And they're also adding about 5,000 square feet of commercial space, including also, because one of my favorite topics is parking, they're also adding about 125 parking spaces in on-site garage. It could prove to be the largest single private development project completed in the downtown Concord, if you look at to date based upon square footage. So you all don't have to stop me on the street and ask me, hey, what's going on with that? Here you go. Ready? No need to ask me in the future. So permitting is happening this summer. The demo of the former Employment Security Building is scheduled for this fall, and the start of the construction is looking like spring of 2019. The next project I want to highlight is the boutique hotel with the New Hampshire Aesthetic and Visual Art Forward. And I'm sure Mr. Simchek will explain to me what the heck that means someday. But we know it's independently owned, and it is no chain affiliation. It's currently under construction. It'll be completed in 2 phases. Phase 1 is on the 4th floor. Its anticipated completion is in early August. And Phase 2 is on the 6th floor, with construction to start late summer. You want to nod? Is that right? There you go. And will likely open by the end of the year. So, and what's I think kind of neat is the terrace up there will actually be used at the hotel. So there are approximately 38 new rooms. They'll be coupled with the function space on the 3rd floor, and we look forward to that as well. Downtown events. So we have heard from, I have In Town over here. We've heard from plenty of folks in this community how difficult it can be working through the permitting process if you want to do a function or some sort of event in the city. So we put together a committee, we reviewed all of the permitting processes, and we have reduced or eliminated the need to secure permits and the insurance for any small-scale events. We removed the layer of permitting for special events. And we also, as a council, said, you know, if we want new events to occur, and, you know, the other night at this council, we had the Black Ice Hockey, who, you know, this is just an amazing event, which has really grown over the years. But they have contributed back to the city of Concord for a new community building skate house over $100,000. Think about that, over $100,000 from that one event. It's just amazing, and the hard work that they do is great, so greatly appreciated. But we said if we're going to survive and keep moving forward, we want to really help. What can the city do to help folks? So we've agreed to co-sponsor the inaugural League of New Hampshire Craftsmen event on South Main Street in September, which I'm really excited about. And we've also agreed to be a sponsor for the Governor's Conference on Tourism in May. Those are just, you know, some of the projects downtown, and I think it's also important to highlight, I can think of at least 4 other projects which will be coming soon to our downtown. That's the type of growth we're talking about. In fact, I believe there's one on the north end of Main Street, because so much seems to be happening on the south, but one project on north end of Main Street, which is a redevelopment project, which will bring new jobs to the city. It should be unveiled early this spring. So I'm pretty excited about that as well. Talked a lot about Main Street, talked a little bit about transportation. I don't often get to say much nice about the legislature, so here's my chance. The legislature last year, they actually sent money back to cities and towns to help with transportation projects. And through those extra dollars and some new dollars acquired by the city, we were able to double the amount of money and double the amount of roads that we will be paving next year. So as you're sitting in traffic and you're saying, I can't stand that Bouley, I can't, just think that is called progress, folks. You are going to enjoy those paved streets. But one project in particular is the Sewalls Bridge. And this is a project where, you know, it was fairly controversial at times. We were very sensitive to the fact that there was replacing a 100-year-old bridge. And our design team worked closely with their local historians and the Department of Historic Resources. And you can see that the city, with this design team, succeeded in developing an affordable, modern bridge that paid homage to the existing historic structure, and while fitting with the context of the natural surroundings. But, you know, with transportation, and since we started with public safety, I want to just show you how important they work together. One of the biggest issues, if you lived in East Concord, was how long is it going to take to get to the hospital, right, gentlemen? And by completing that bridge, we reduced the response time by over 4 minutes. That, in terms of response times, that's a huge reduction. So transportation works important with public safety as well. So you can see in the next slide that we actually established a small park. It was designed and constructed next to the bridge, and we tried to incorporate some of the existing structure with the recreational trail. That hopefully just takes you a very, very quick helicopter ride through the city of some of the things going on. Hopefully, you know, you can see that there is a tremendous amount of things going on. And now I will turn it over to Tom to thoroughly bore you with all of the city financials.
So I've actually had more people today coming up asking for the city's financial information. So just so you know, there's people are excited about this. Maybe Rich Woodfin and Leslie Walker. So in terms of the city's financials, just cover them briefly. Staff, so Matt Walsh and Brian LeBrun and Carlos Bailly asked me to boil this down to one slide. I used to have about half a dozen. So the Standard & Poor's bond rating for the city got reaffirmed in January as AA+. That's half a step below the highest level rating there is. It is one of the highest in the state and actually in New England. And we work very hard at keeping that, and I'll tell you a little bit why in a minute. This is the 9th consecutive balanced budget that we have. The City Council approved this past June, and another one will be coming up. And the budget that I'll be presenting to the City Council will be the 10th balanced budget. It's really not that difficult, but it seems to be very difficult for most other governmental agencies to do it. There's a lot of work that the council did over the last decade to get to this point so that we can keep this rolling and make sure we stay at a balanced budget and make sure we're not doing unnecessary debt going forward for future generations. The last bond sale we had, which was in January, was 2.856. That's the amount that percentage rate that we're borrowing dollars at. The council is very cognizant of what to borrow, what not to borrow. And as a matter of fact, we'll be looking at our policies going forward to try to make sure the debt ratios stay in the proper place. This is Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This sounds boring, but what it really is, it really isn't. What it really is how do you get the information out available not only to the public, our citizens, but also the private sector and our bond companies. So this is the 23rd year in a row that won that award. That's the longest stretch in New Hampshire, I think, history, and the longest of any community in the state right now. And as a matter of fact, the Certificate of Recognition for Budget Presentations is our 3rd year. That is all about transparency and getting information out to folks so that they can actually go and explore the information that we have available regarding all our sections of the budget. And this will be the 3rd year for that. That is essentially an international award, and that is the highest award you can receive either in the United States or Canada. A couple of things to keep in mind. This is a question I always get asked, so I might as well just tell you the information. The City of Concord is a very unique situation because of the number of other governmental agencies, which includes Concord School District's here today, Merrimack Valley School District, federal government, the county. There's a lot of property, there's a lot of value that is tax exempt. And a lot of those organizations do a tremendous amount of work and are very valuable to the community. But what it does mean is that 28% of the entire value of the city is tax exempt. So in other words, the rest of the community is carrying the total debt burden or total cost burden associated with that. So when the police department shows up, the fire department shows up, there's costs, whether or not they're showing up over at the State House or they're showing up at the Concord School District or something else. So again, 28%. That's the highest. And I want to give you a comparison of how that shakes out with other communities. So Concord's 28%. If you go back to 2010, it was 25%. So it's grown. It goes up as high as 29 or actually 30% some years. Put in comparison to other communities. Manchester, so Concord 28%, Manchester's 14%. So half of what we are. Nashua is 10%. Portsmouth is 12%. So there are a lot of costs associated with all of the different agencies and organizations we have in the community that the taxpayers have to keep in mind. The reason I bring this up is when the City Council does the budget, they're very cognizant of that fact. So every dollar that they spend, that they look at spending, they realize it has that much greater impact than any other dollar from a local standpoint that is spent in the state. So in Manchester, it was 14% in 2010. I mean, 14% now, it was 13% in 2010, so it's essentially the same. Nashua went from 9 to 10% from 2010 to 2018. Portsmouth stayed at 12. So while those communities are pretty much steady, Concord is actually increasing the number in the percentage value that is exempt. A few projects that I'll just touch on briefly. Concord Municipal Airport. Again, we tried to gear this towards an economic development perspective. There's two pieces here. The terminal, which many of you who have ever used the Concord Airport or been there, is really been in a sad state for 40 years, maybe. It actually, there's a team together, the city working with Joe Alosa and his crew are undertaking a $40,000 in improvements to the terminal. And we are currently in the process of undertaking, working with the state and the federal government on a $2.9 million improvement to the taxiway. So that would be the green bar to the bottom, actually the orange and pink, which serves the green bar to the bottom. That's a 5,000 linear foot runway, and we'll be actually doing works on runway 1535, which is heading to the top part of the screen, the red. So there's a lot of work that you'll be seeing at the airport, and really the purpose of that is to make sure we're ready for the economic development and people who use that. So good news there. The next piece is just kind of reporting on some project we're finishing up. We're finishing up the Keach Park pool. This is back to a quality of life issue, and the whole idea of if you make your community have a great quality of life, that people will move here, businesses will move here. That has been something the council has focused on for the last dozen or so years. There's 7 neighborhood pools. They all were built essentially during the WPA era, and it's time to replace them. They go for about $400,000 to $500,000 each. We'll be finishing the Keach Park pool this spring, which will be open to the community for free. Challenge you to find another community in New England that has 7 neighborhood pools that are free for use. And at the same time, the Concord Housing and Redevelopment Authority, which is an agency of the city, is providing, again, free lessons, 2-week sessions of swim lessons in classes for free to any children from Pennacook or Concord to learn how to swim. And the commissioners associated with that are Ari Pollock and Jerry Madden, Jim Fowler, Peter Berger, and Jackie Whatmo. I've agreed to make those funds available again to do this. So again, that project will be done in Keach Park. There are 4 more after this. We're going to take a break for a couple of years because I think some of those pools can wait a bit, and we got to save our money a little bit. Again, try to manage the expenses. Do some garage talk in the morning. This is exciting. So this is a $5.2 million School Street garage update. I'd like to, so people, if you've been downtown, you've heard the noise, you've seen the impact, but there is good coming after this is complete. This was going to be undertaken several years ago, and then the city we were surprised as anybody else by the success of the community working together to get the grant for the Tiger funding for Main Street. So we ended up pushing this off because we didn't want to have all the parking for Main Street eliminated and the parking garage at the same time. So then we started this project essentially after Main Street was complete. Again, $5.2 million. The replacement of all the stair towers, replacement of the elevator. Yes, that will be great. Steel and concrete repairs, new drainage and plumbing systems, electrical upgrades, new LED lighting, signage, and we're going to have a surveillance system in there also. So for people working late at night, there'll be new lighting, there'll be a surveillance system, it'll be tied into the police department so they can keep a close eye on what's going on. Eventually, we'll be doing this with all the garages, and the city council is committed to funding those programs. Currently focused on the replacement of the north tower, which you can see, which is closest to me, and the north stair will be completed and open to the public in June. If you have any questions about this, Matt Walsh is sitting in the back. He's Mr. Garage. He's doing a great job with this. The elevator replacement, which I think everybody's interested in who uses this garage, we'll undertake that project immediately following the stair tower. And that completion, that will begin in June, and we hope to have that done. I think 2 months, Matt? 2 months to get that done. So this whole project will be done in 2020, and then we're going to be moving on to the next garage after that. So if you've seen any of the city council meetings, city council is being very aggressive, but appropriately so in terms of financing to look at making sure these garages get done, and again, supporting the economic development, particularly in the downtown. Next piece, the mayor had mentioned the neighborhood paving program. Up until 2016, the Tim's looking at his watch, so I'll pick it up. Okay. So spent about $1 million. So when the economy crashed, many communities around New England, particularly New Hampshire, just stopped spending money on road repairs. The city council kept spending. We did about one, because we get good prices when everyone else isn't buying asphalt. We could buy asphalt at good prices. We were spending about $1 million a year on roads. This doesn't include projects like Langley Parkway or Loudon Road or Regional Drive or sections of Manchester Street or Village Street. Those were major capital projects we were undertaking major improvements to and spending tens of millions of dollars on those. This was really your neighborhood roads. The city council said after we finish those major corridors, those collectors and arterials, get into the neighborhoods and have some work take place there. So as you can see, from fiscal year 16, we're in fiscal year 18 now, we've been spending over $3 million a year on road improvements. And the idea is keep that progress going. And council is committed to increasing the funding every single year for that. And this year, again, as the mayor mentioned, due to some money coming back from the state and some other good decisions that the council made, we're actually able to increase the spending to $3.3 million again for this year. This is a rendering or schematic essentially from Turner Group, we're working with Milestone on opening our new multi-generational community center in June. This will be really the first one the city has ever had. What we've done in the past is repurposed existing buildings, whether they're old armories or fire stations or whatever they may be, to try to look like a community center and function like a community center, but never really met our needs. So this project is on time, on budget. It's one of the things that, looking at it, because it's built in with our park system, this will also have library facilities within it. And really, the way we look at parks and libraries in the community, it's really many people's, particularly children's, first introduction to environmentalism, looking at historic and culture of a community, looking at the social interaction in working with nature. So this is very important to the community, particularly this area of the community. And this has been on part of the City Council's agenda for the last, again, dozen years, to focus on the quality of life of the community. And we don't see these types of projects as frills. These are necessary items to serve the folks who live, particularly in this area of the city, many who may not have the ability to, if you think about it, you're in the middle of the winter and you're trying to get to the library and you're 10 years old. And it wasn't like when I was growing up, when my mother said, get on the bike and go to the library, and it's 10, and be no question. Here, if you can imagine, you're living on Loudon Road and you have to somehow get over across the river to the Concord Public Library and get back before it gets dark. That's tough. So we're bringing services to you directly now. And again, that will be open in June. I'll just show you some of the pictures associated with that, just briefly. That's the stage in the part of the, so this would be this section here. I don't know how to use the top one. The top one? Yep. Thank you, Tim. So this section here, we saved this section of the building, and we saved this part of the building, which is built in the 60s. So it's a combination of saving the existing Old Dame School, which Concord School District, the mayor negotiated a brilliant price of $1 to acquire this property, which we combine with the Concord School District. So that will be, we combine with Keach Park, and so thank you, Concord School District, for that. This is, again, the staging area, which will multi-purpose use for public. This is the picture above, Jerry Blanchette was able to get us from H.L. Turner. This picture on the top is progress as of last week. The gym will look like afterwards. It'll be a high school regulation gym. This will be the entrance area when you come into the new community center. Again, last week and 45 days from now, what it'll look like. Again, you'll hear me say this again about major projects that we undertake and how they get done. Ask Matt Walsh. This is he and David Gill are undertaking, who's the recreation director, are managing this project. This is the senior room, one of the senior rooms that folks will be able to use. So Tim, you just had your 59th birthday again, right? So you might want to step over. I'll give you a personal tour. So congratulations. So, and did you want to talk about your initiative for the? Okay. So this is at least $40,000 that they stopped counting. H.L. Turner is undertaking the designs and development of this. We've had public meetings in the White Park area with folks. This has received 100% approval from that neighborhood, which is pretty amazing. We had some public sessions over at the law school. We'll be undertaking this project. The mayor announced an initiative, which this actually Monday for this. The city council has put its money forward to this. This will be about $1 million project. This will replace the existing skate house at White Park. And as you can see from the picture, you'd be able to come right out of the skate house onto the ice when there is ice, which probably ice tonight when we go out there. Who knows? In addition to this, we'll have indoor and outdoor fireplaces and be able to use on a year-round basis. And there's an initiative that mayor has put together to have the private sector will raise the other half of the funds for this. And I guess that would be it. And we wanted to leave a little bit of time, hopefully I did, for questions, because we never do in the other ones, which is kind of a defense mechanism. So be glad to answer any questions.
Have you ever thought about the idea for the, I love the nonprofits, we're all here, and they're here because it's a state capital, and I have nothing against those who do golf, but for example, and I pick on them by example, the New Hampshire Golf Association, which I'm sure has members from all of the state, owns the building. And I'm sure they're a tax-exempt organization, so when the fire and police have to go there, I get to pay the privilege, and Concord citizens pay the privilege for going to the Golf Association, which serves golfers in Littleton. Have you ever thought about doing, like you did with the garbage and the water and sewer, at least for the commercial properties, setting up a separate district? That way, when you provide those services to the not-for-profits, they at least, I understand they're not going to pay for schools, but they pay for the services that we're providing to them for free. And it wouldn't impact, in fact, it would probably help the regular commercial sector, because we're already paying them all part of the tax rate. Why not do a special district like you do for sewer and water and garbage for commercial properties so that the tax exempt? And I get it, there are a lot of very worthwhile causes, but they serve statewide communities, and they tell us they give us lots of jobs, but a lot of them are just do administrative jobs.
So the answer, well, I have not talked to the mayor about this, but the answer is yes. I've looked at with the models that Boston has used and other major metropolitan areas have used, particularly dealing with medical industry, universities and colleges, and see how that could work. One of the reasons the city council took the process it did with solid waste, is a good example, Stephen, that you used, was because that crosses all sectors. So, we could have simply, when the cost for solid waste disposal went up $1 million 5 years ago, we could have just spread that evenly amongst the taxpayers, and but who would that would affect? It would only affect 70% of the people who pay taxes. And if you look in Concord proper, 40% of the commercial of the tax base is commercial. And so we decided, no, don't go that route. Go to the route very much like what we do with sewer and water, where the users, if you use it, you pay the fee, because that would have a less of an impact on the taxpayers. So we've looked at I have looked at those models. It's just trying to find the right one for Concord. We do have a very good system where we do payments in lieu of taxes, and some very generous organizations which is all voluntary, who do that. I'd like to expand that first, but yes, we have looked at that. Okay, yeah.
Well, but two things though. First is our assessor is she's aggressive, and she she does review nonprofit status, and when people come in and apply for nonprofit status, everyone is considered reviewed, and I can tell you that not all are accepted. In fact, the folks who were at my desk last week at 8 a.m. in the morning holding the letter going, why was I denied? So they are reviewed, number one. And number two, I don't think we can minimize at all, and I don't think you are either, for instance, our faith community and how important they are to serving our community, and I mean in all facets, but in particular something we've talked about in the past, and that is our homeless community and the efforts they do to make sure that everyone is safe and served. So it's, and I know you weren't minimizing that, but just it's important to recognize.
What's going on, which I read about the playing fields on Old Turnpike Road? Is that where they are?
Terrell Park?
Terrell Park, yes.
So one of the things the council does each year is we review our capital budget appropriations and the plan, because we look out several years in the future. And one of the things we've constantly heard about is the need and demand for new field space. In particular, when I first started, it was about softball fields and baseball fields, and that has evolved into lacrosse fields and soccer fields. So it's changed over time. The other pressure that we have felt, particularly from the user groups, is have you considered using a turf field? And if we had a turf field, can we get on it a whole lot sooner? Does the play increase? Can we actually market it to camps during the summer? Can we bring back playoffs for high school events, etc.? But we obviously also have Memorial Field, and Memorial Field is designed such that it was purchased in with many different use of funds. So it's not easy to just make changes in Memorial Field. Number two is to replace the stands. Anybody, if you've been there recently, you'll know the stands around the football field and such is in serious need of repair. But the cost to do that is like around $1.2 million. So we're asking ourselves, is it best to reinvest in new stands for $1.2 million, or is it better to do something else which we can get a much higher and greater use? And one of the areas that we've looked at is over on Old Turnpike Road off of exit 13. But there are actually other potential opportunities, I think, that may present themselves soon, and we'll have to consider as the city, what do we want to do?
So I don't have a question. Actually, I just want to express some appreciation on behalf of the bank and our family of companies. As most of you know, a couple of Fridays ago, well, first I'll stipulate, we weren't bored and we didn't just want our employees to play pool in the basement of the Barley House, but particularly with the fire and police here, everyone should know how incredibly professional, but also sort of Concord compassionate the response was. The city manager himself walked over from his office. I mean, we can joke about it now, but it's pretty intense when you're having a potential CNN moment where we all live and work. And again, the response of all these professionals was just top rate, solved the situation, and made all of us feel so much better. So thank you very much.
I did go check with state police that day what was going on, and when I walked over, he looked at me and goes, "You know what we're doing, Mayor?" I said, "What's that?" He says, "We're closing off the streets and nobody can move their cars, so they all can go get ticketed, and you can raise revenues." I said, "Let's not do that."
Pretty positive and glowing report with sustainability. What keeps you up at night, looking over the horizon?
That's a great question. So on Tuesday morning, I met with 10 people from the faith community, and they asked, how can we help? What can we do? And when you start going through, we live in a wonderful community, but you start digging down a little deeper. I mean, we have all the same issues that any other community has. So, one specific example for me, I am incredibly grateful of the efforts of the Concord Coalition to End Homelessness, and for all of you who've contributed to putting in an emergency shelter for the winter. But that shelter, unlike the last 3 years, will not be able to welcome families. And we typically have between 3 to 5 families who present themselves each winter. And I don't know what I'm going to do about that. So that's one of those things. We have a growing elderly population. Programs like Meals on Wheels are critically important to make sure that somebody is reaching out and touching those folks to make sure they're checked on and they're safe and they're okay. So, I can't tell you enough. Just check with your neighbor. Talk to your neighbors. There's a whole host of things like that we feel as any other city feels. And but the positive upside to that is we have incredible programs in the city that do tremendous work to make sure that people are safe. And but you know, those things. The other things, the financial pieces, I always worry about, because there's no shortage of need, and obviously we're all feeling pressure to be able to pay, and to be able to come up in the spring with a budget that is reasonable to everybody, to make sure they get their sidewalk plowed and their leaves picked up and all the other important things, and do that in an affordable way. That does keep me up.
Thank you again, Mayor, City Manager.